Welcome one, welcome all to the greatest show of them all, NFC East Mixtape, baby. You can listen to this show on any one of the SB Nation NFC East podcast networks. That's Blogging the Boys for Dallas Cowboys coverage, Bleeding Green Nation for Philadelphia Eagles coverage, Big Blue View for New York Giants, and Hogs Haven for Washington Commanders. Bit of an issue with the Hogs going on in Dan Snyder, it seems. You can also watch this show on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, and there you will see the bright, shining face of myself. I am RJ Ochoa from BTB, home of the good guys. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from BGN, home of those dirty birds. BLG, Merry post-Christmas to you. Happy early New Year, my friend. What a wonderful time to be alive. Don't you agree?
I mean, I thought long and hard, OJ, about how I'm going to approach this show, because it could go one of many different ways. But I want you to be happy. I want all Cowboys fans to enjoy this.
Here comes the copium. Cope all day, baby.
Cope. I want you to enjoy it because it's all you have, baby, because you know these Cowboys are coming to the link in Philly and losing in the playoffs. So enjoy it now while your meaningless loss that didn't really accomplish much of anything in the big picture.
So you think this is meaningless and didn't accomplish anything?
I'm not done.
I want to get your thoughts.
I'm not done. Let me finish. A 6-point win based off of being +3 in turnover differential against the Eagles' backup quarterback on the third straight road game at home with the Eagles traveling on short rest. I mean, if this is a great accomplishment for you, then you should be happy about it.
Interesting that the Eagles being +3 in the turnover differential when the Cowboys lost to them, when the Cowboys had a backup quarterback, was not, anything that needed to be said as an outlier. That was totally fine and understandable.
Did the Cowboys fumble the ball?
I don't know that you need
on
to
a
argue.
handoff.
I don't know that you need to argue with me, Brandon. I would like you to argue with somebody whose opinion I trust, whose opinion I generally believe in, and whose opinion I know you hold in high esteem. This is Brandon Lee Gowton from the NFC East Mixtape after the Eagles beat the Cowboys earlier in the season.
Eagles were my lock of the week, RJ. I knew they were going to beat the Dallas Cowboys. Not only beat them, but cover as well. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear anything about, moral victory or, whatever. Like, we didn't have Dak. No. I saw all of the writers, almost all of the writers, maybe not every single one. Most of the writers at bloggingtheboys.com were picking the Cowboys to beat the Eagles. You picked the Cowboys to beat the Eagles. I want to hear they were going to lose it anyway. No, that is BS. It doesn't matter that they came back into the game when the Eagles had to get the points. They did, as they've done all time. I don't want to hear anything like, the Eagles, there's some cracks in the armor. Eagles have led by 14 points in every single game this season. They have not trailed in the second half of a game this season. They are one of the very best teams, legit. I don't know why I have to justify that when they're 6-0. And also,
I don't know why I have to justify anything here, Brandon. I don't know how all of a sudden now these things aren't true. I don't know how all of a sudden, I have to justify how great the Cowboys are. I mean, no, you said no. I don't want to hear that's BS. You didn't include the part where I said BleedingGreenNation.com. In fact, you even wrote to people. You said, if you're scared, get a dog. I don't know if that's an expression that people say. I've never heard that before, honestly. But you picked the Eagles. You picked them not only to, be impressive, but to win. The Cowboys won, and by your own measurement, they covered the same exact way that the Eagles did against the Cowboys. And yet you came in here, you were walking tall. You were like when Jim tells Dwight about the whatever it was, the rock or whatever that's all smug. You were ready to roll. But now when the Cowboys do the exact same thing, it's me.
The exact same thing.
I smell hypocrisy. I smell hypocrisy of the highest order. You said you were unafraid of Dak Prescott, and he owns the Eagles.
I still am.
He owns your team.
Yes.
He owns the Eagles. He absolutely owns them.
Having 3+
they had
in the turnover
Dak
difference
got the
won
points when he had to have him. That was a point of credit that you gave to the Eagles.
You said
they got the points when they had to have him. When Dak had to have it, he torched one of the best secondaries in the NFL.
Okay, what about that sequence at the end of the game when he ran out of bounds before the 2-minute
warning? Did he win? Did he get the points? Did he put up 40 points on one of the best defenses in the NFL?
He allowed the Eagles to have a chance to win at the end of the game when he shouldn't
dominated
have. A better quarterback
one of the best secondaries in the
Gardner Minshew to have a chance at the
he
end of the game.
owns them. He absolutely owns them. He spotted them. He had to overcome a 10-point deficit twice in the same game, and he did.
Wait, why were they down 10?
I mean, it's football. Crazy things happen. You said it. The Eagles had to have points in that game against Dallas and Philly. They did it, and you gave them a ton of credit for that. But I'm hearing not even 1% credit. Not even 1%. We didn't make a bet for this game. I came in here, I went back, and if it isn't obvious, I listened to that whole episode, and I came in, I was a little bit pissed. It was a bummer, but I came in and said, you know what? I called that Eagles possession in the second half at that time in the season the best possession that any NFL team had so far on the year, because it was. They had to have points to go put the game away, and they did it. The Cowboys, when they had to do things against the Eagles, they did them. When Dak had to do things against the Eagles, he did them. He had one of the most wonderful, incredible throws of the season on 3rd and 20, where T.Y. Hilton burned Darius Slay.
No, that's first of all, that's not true. And look, I'm not trying to defend Slay after this game. I'm not saying that, but that was not his assignment.
I'm not saying it's 100% on him, but he got beat. It's not like all his fault.
Yeah, he was clearly. So what happened on that play? Because let's talk about that a little bit. That was like honestly, that might have been the game right there. Like at that point,
dude,
like that was seriously a very pivotal play. And I mean, like I'm not blaming him most on that play. He's passing off to the safety that should be behind him there, which is for some reason like inexplicable. Like there's not like a ton of things I'm like super like this isn't a loss where I'm super pissed off at a ton of Eagles players or coaches or whatever, because I think, and we'll get to this later, bigger point, they were the better team in a lot of aspects. Now, whatever, you wouldn't disagree with that. We're talking about that play.
They lost.
Jonathan Gannon, who is a big, and honestly, if we're going to like talk about, if we're going to get beyond this game and look at like what's more concerning or meaningful moving forward, it's the fact that Jonathan Gannon, the jury is still out on him when it comes to being able to like hold up, not even shut down. It's not like I need him to keep Dak Prescott to like, 5 of 20 for
he can't because Dak owns
60 yards. Like that's not but no one's asking for that reasonably. They're just like, can you not allow him to go 24 of 24 when he plays zone coverage against him?
See, like this is where like
awful though.
It's like,
wait, I'm not done. I want to get.
Why can't you give Dak any credit for this? Like, why does this have to be? Well, Jonathan Gannon sucks. Darius Slay sucked. Like, there's no credit happening to the team that beat the Eagles on Saturday.
I'm not done talking about the 3rd and 30. Yes, obviously Dak deserves credit. When you go 24 of 24 against any kind of coverage, obviously you deserve credit. However, like you should not be that play to me was not like, oh wow, Dax did something incredible.
And it was a dime. It was a 62-yard dime.
But like, why is the backup slot corner being asked
that ball
to go
could be
from the
one
slot
place
position
and
to play
Dak
the
pulled
deep
it off.
half?
So I think it's ridiculous that you still can't say like, okay, I'm a little scared of him. It doesn't make you like, whatever.
I'm not. That's like, oh wow, Dak did something, and the Eagles just like they played the perfect coverage and they just couldn't defend it. No, they galaxy brain themselves. Why would you ask your backup slot corner to be the deep safety there, dropping from the slot? Like it's 3rd and 30. You don't need to disguise your coverage. Just line up and play. It's 3rd and 30. You don't need to reinvent the wheel on that play, and he did, and it was so dumb.
I think that Eagles fans are too harsh on Jonathan Gannon. I think he's a scapegoat. I think Eagles lose. It's like, oh, Jonathan Gannon sucks. I mean, the Eagles have, if not for the 49ers, the best defense in the NFL. And now I know the Avonte Maddox injury like slightly changed. I don't know like how much every Eagles fan weighs that, but it's a big deal, obviously. And obviously
it was a big deal. Like he was having a great game,
right? And obviously Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being out is a factor. And I don't know if you think he's going to return this week, whatever. But this is one of the best defenses in the NFL. So I don't think Eagles fans should get to sit here and be like, in the same way, like I wrote an article this week defending Kellen Moore. I don't think Eagles fans should be like, well, now Gannon sucks. Like this is the one problem. If not for Gannon, we would be perfect. Like that's not fair. Like to Jonathan Gannon. He's done an incredible job all season long.
Since 2020, there have been 3 examples of a quarterback producing at least a 95 completion percentage or better against zone. And this is a minimum of 20 attempts. The stat comes from our good friend Shul Kapadia. All 3 of them have been against Jonathan Gannon's Eagles. It was Derek Carr last year, it was Justin Herbert last year, and it was Dak this year. Like
those are 2 really good quarterbacks, though. I mean, like that's part of the issue.
Like 95%. Who is completing 95%?
Anyway, I don't want to make this about Jonathan Gannon. Again, there's the coping that is happening here. Oh well, the Cowboys won the turnover differential by 3. That's what the Eagles won the turnover differential by in the first game. Like, how are you like beyond acknowledging that these are all equal variables with regards to the 2 games that these 2 teams play?
Gardner Minshew fumble exchange is just like that's a bad luck. Okay, so here, yes, +3, but also when the Eagles played the Cowboys earlier this year, refresh my memory since you have that game such like I
rewatched the episode, not the game, just to be very
like there's 3 big fumbles in this game. There was obviously the fumble that set up the 3rd and 30 ultimately. That Hassan Reddick forced.
That Tyler Biadasz recovered. Who the Cowboys traded up with the Eagles to draft, by the way.
And then Eagles were unable to recover that. And then there was the Minshew Boston Scott one, which, was what, Jaron Kearse or whoever was able to get that instantly. And then the one at the end of the game where like the ball is in Jack Driscoll's hands, and somehow as he's going to the ground, it like bounces out. Like bad fumble luck was a big part of this for the Eagles. Like, if I'm not saying the Eagles get all three of those,
that's partly true, but it's also true that Cowboys defenders made insane plays. The 2 picks were incredible plays by Jaron Kearse and Deron Bland.
Yes, to some extent, I would say also.
No, to all extent, they were great plays.
Quez deserves some like blame for not being better.
Cowboys defenders deserve credit for taking that ball.
Scot-free. He doesn't deserve any blame.
No, but like you can't just be like, well, the only reason this happened is because the Eagles allowed it. No, the Cowboys took it. They took it from the Eagles.
The first of those 2 was the better. Well, it was a bad throw by Minshew. The first of the 2 interceptions because he was a little late, a little behind. I still think Quez could have done a little bit better job of like fighting for that and maybe at least forcing it incomplete.
I haven't heard 1 ounce of credit to any
Cowboys player. The second one, I just said Dak had a good game.
He had an incredible game. He had one of the best games that any NFL quarterback has had all season. He had the pick 6 that was horrible, and he rebounded heroically from it. Dak was incredible. Jaron Kearse was incredible. Deron Bland.
I don't even regret any of my analysis from before this game, which is the frustrating part. I said Dak is going to give the Eagles 1. He did. I said that the biggest mismatch in this game favors the Eagles. It did. They couldn't defend AJ Brown and Devontae Smith,
and they still beat him. And they still beat him because Dak is that good. Dak got no help from his defense.
But
Dak
you're over here tweeting like
the Cowboys had no success on the ground, but Dak overcame, kept going, and beat him. He beat the Eagles. He outlasted them.
Is this the same narrative if Gardner Minshew completes that pass at the end?
Why are we dealing with ifs instead of what actually happened?
Because this is like, their winners write history, and it's like, well, that's analysis can go deeper than that.
I think,
and
I don't think it's
so many categories, the Eagles outplayed the Cowboys in this game. They outgained them. They were better on the money downs, 3rd down and 4th down percentage. They didn't punt in this game. The Eagles did not punt in this game. They had a lead for 37 minutes and 11 seconds. The Cowboys led in this game for 6 minutes and 39 seconds. If you want to total up combined in the 2 games the Eagles have Cowboys have played this year, the Eagles have led for 82 minutes and 6 seconds. The Cowboys have led for 6 minutes and 39 seconds.
So what? Tell me there are games where teams don't lead at all, where they lead on game-winning field goals.
This was such a gaslighting game. But again, I'm failing.
This is a moment where you don't want to give the Cowboys an ounce of credit, despite the fact that things are so similar, and you came in here and you touted the Eagles win.
I just read you the disparity.
They are very similar. The turnover differential, the backup quarterbacks, the fact that the Cowboys got points when they had to have them. There is no credit being given. This is coping and moving goalposts. That's all
I want you to think this. So go ahead. If you want to think this, you can think that.
I think this is refusing to deal with reality.
This is setting up the fall that is going to come so hard, and you're going to realize that it is
I don't
not
think
as close
so.
as you think it is.
This is trying to call a spade a spade.
That way.
This is trying to call a spade. And I came in here, and it was tough. I gave the Eagles a lot of credit. I even said that they kind of exposed Micah Parsons.
It's not the same game.
There's no
Did the Cowboys outgain
not a shred of credibility given to the Cowboys.
Did the Eagles outgain the Cowboys in that game? They did not.
What game?
They had never had a lead in that game. They never led in that game earlier this year. How was that the same as this year or this game when the Eagles led for 37 minutes? That's not the same game.
They won, and they put up 40 points on one of the best defenses in the NFL. I don't know how you're just like, oh, that's fine. Like, that's kind of impressive, whatever. That is super impressive. They took, to your point, the Eagles were dominant on offense. They did not punt, although I've bashed Dan Quinn a lot this week. I think the did not punt thing is misleading because there were 4 turnovers. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
part of it, but
I know,
there is something too. The Cowboys literally never forced a 3rd down stop.
I totally agree. 100% agree. All I'm saying is, like, 2 of those possessions for Philly were 2 plays or fewer, right? Like one fumble came after 2 plays, one after literally 1 play. So
it's a factor. I agree.
Yeah, I'm not saying they would have punted. I'm just saying it's a weird like quirk. But anyway. So yeah, the Cowboys absorbed a dominant game from the Philly offense. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith dominated them early on. AJ Brown dominated Trayvon Diggs. I don't really feel like either team got a lot going on the ground. Obviously, Jalen Hurts being absent is a big factor in that.
Neither team did.
But so they still took they didn't force a 3rd down stop, to your point, and they outlasted them. How is that not highly impressive? How is that not incredibly impressive? The 2 plays that Jaron Kearse and Deron Bland made on the ball are super impressive, aggressive, go-get-it moments from Dan Quinn's defense. That I will give them credit for. I mean, I don't know how you can sit here and be like, whatever. Like, no, they took a huge shot and won. They won. They got the points when they had to have them. They got the moments when they had to have them.
Impressive in the scope of they won this game. And what did this game mean? What did it really mean?
I mean, This is such copium.
Tell me what it means.
The same thing. Oh, this is BS.
Tell me what it means.
It means
what this game really
means. The Cowboys denied the Eagles a chance at clinching the NFC East. It means the Eagles now have to play to win and risk things on Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. I mean, so it means a lot. That's a big thing. We have no idea what's going to happen in the future. It means a lot.
Once they do that, then what does it really mean?
What if they don't do it? Then it means even more. Like you can play this
game
back and forth a million ways.
When I get there, but I'll take my chances with needing to get one win, 2 home games left against the Saints.
It doesn't make
Giants.
the Eagles less good to say the Cowboys are also very good. And you don't want to do that.
The Eagles are better. I think they're the better team. I don't think it's close.
You will not admit, even though the Cowboys just, again, took a huge performance from the Eagles.
This was not a game where I was like, oh, no, I'm scared of the Cowboys. It's just honestly not the takeaway.
No, in fact, you were so confident in the Eagles. You said they're going to win. If you're scared, get a dog. The Cowboys won
I did feel like
and covered. Win. They covered that spread.
I did say at the end of the game, I was like, okay, they're down, probably not going to win. And then I was like, but at least they'll probably cover. And then sure enough, Miles Sanders fumbles in that spot. And I'm like, God dang it, Miles. Like, you had to ruin the cover, too.
The Cowboys won. They covered. They met the exact criteria that you laid out when the Eagles beat the Cowboys and covered against the Cowboys back in week 6. And again, it's like, and you came in there, one of the very best teams. You literally said, I don't know why I have to keep defending this and proving this. I don't know why you can't even say they're a very good team. They're one of the best teams in the NFL.
I don't need to say that.
Acknowledge the Eagles are better, all you want. But the fact that you can't acknowledge the Cowboys are one of the best teams in the NFL
is so fake. Yeah, I'm not acknowledging that at all. I don't have them at like what, number 5 or whatever I have in my power rankings. Like, come on.
What do you have?
Like I don't know. I didn't do for this week yet. So full disclosure, because I'm going to do it probably tonight. But like they're probably 5, 4, whatever. They're like they're clearly like, but like. I'm not.
You're one of the best teams in the NFL. Why can't you say it?
How am I not saying it by doing that?
Why won't you say it?
Because you want me to.
You either need to say that they're one of the best teams in the NFL, or you need to say that you're such an Eagles homer that you're refusing to say that particular sentence.
I don't need to say anything. My belief, my takeaway from this game is that I feel extremely great if the Eagles Cowboys play again, especially in Philly, about the Eagles' chances of winning. That's how I feel.
Here's my thing on this, because we spin forward, because we could just sit here and yell at each other.
That's what matters. Like, so we're spending all the time in this game. Into what end? What does it matter? Now
we don't have to talk about the game, man. This is.
Oh, you're the one. You're guilty of this more than I am. You come in before the show and you're like, oh, we won't even get into the game. We can just look at what it means moving forward. And I'm trying to do that. Anyway, now we can't do that.
I want to ask a question, and like this might be a can of worms, and I promise, like, this is not trolling in any way, like legitimate conversation I'm interested in having. There's obviously a lot, and like I will extend you some grace that you did not extend me. I recognize that one Eagles fan I see on Twitter does not represent the fan base as a whole. Is not the singular opinion as a whole, or of the fan base as a whole. That being said, a lot of opinions are like, with Jalen, we win that game. With Jalen Hurts, we win that game. The one thing I was wrong on was I did not think Gardner Minshew would be awesome. Like, I was very afraid of Gardner Minshew at the end of this game, or throughout this game, I should say. So, like, I recognize this is a stupid question, but like, what, like, to your point, to our point, the Cowboys didn't force a third down stop from the Eagles. I would argue that 3 of the turnovers were not really Gardner's fault. The Boston Scott fumble, the 2 interceptions were great Cowboys plays. Maybe you want to put some blame on Quez or Gardner, whatever.
And you have to. He's been, just as a real quick side, he's been targeted, there's been 3 picks in the last 2 weeks that have gone his way. Like,
oh, you're talking about Quez? Yeah. So, like, the other thing I saw in the BGN comments, I saw somebody was like, Quez is worse than Rager. Like, what? Like, just
that's not, no.
Yeah, I know.
Not true.
Anyway, so, like, I'm asking you, not like sarcastically asking, where's the Jalen Hurts difference? Like, obviously, like in the run game mobility thing,
well,
like,
that's a big thing.
I know, I recognize there's a difference. I'm trying to like uncover that, like, because the Eagles offense was mostly unstoppable without him.
I think the composure too. I think that showed up in a couple times where
you did mention that in the first episode, by the way.
What?
Jalen's composure and like calming the huddle, calming presence.
Something like that is so, I think, like hard to maybe quantify or in the moment, especially. But when you see it by contrast, it's like, oh, okay, that's what the opposite looks like. And I think there were times where Gardner was a little bit more frenetic. And I think the Eagles coaching point was like, don't take a sack. Don't take a sack. Just get rid of the ball. And I think he did that maybe a little bit too soon sometimes. Like, he would just get flushed and get rid of the ball, which isn't the worst case scenario. Don't force a pick or anything. But I think there were moments there in the game where Jalen Hurts could have probably held on. And there were times where Gardner had room to run and he got like a yard, where Jalen probably could have gotten like a first down or, 7 yards, whatever. So I think you did see certain things like that. And then again, Jalen is really good at not putting the ball in harm's way. Like he's been really good at that for most of the season.
He had 2 picks his last game.
Okay, that's most. I said most of the season, and
but
again,
we're talking about like who they are right now.
One of those I think was legitimately on him. The other one I think was a bad Quez play. He threw it to a spot where Quez should have been, and Quez was like way late getting out of his break.
Tough days for Quez Watkins and Jonathan Gannon.
And even so, what hurts is like 5 picks on the season. Like he's still been way better at not turning the ball over than. So I think that's been a big issue.
So I agree on the calming presence. This will upset you, and you'll be like, "Oh, it's not real." But like, that's what Dak Prescott offers. That's why like a 3rd and 30 can happen. Like when you have a quarterback who's calm, who everybody believes in.
No, I'm not going to say that's fake.
Well, so, like a real thing. Again, that's like he's that dude for the Cowboys.
Because like let's contrast it with Wentz. Like Wentz is probably going to like freaking get sacked, fumbled in that situation.
I will say the biggest. I thought this was the most bitter pill for me to swallow as a result of this game is Nick Sirianni is a very good head coach. He's an interesting fella, but he is a very, very good head coach. There was one moment where I thought the Eagles coaching staff failed. And I don't think this like led to the loss, but it was definitely a factor at the very end. And I don't know what the communication was. I don't know if there was a report. I didn't see any quotes about this. The decision to spike it on 1st down at the very end, like that is such a risky thing. And there was, I believe, 1 timeout left for Philly at that point in time. I understand wanting to save it and hold it, whatever, but like that is such a risk. And maybe you've calculated the risk and you're fine with it, but you burn that down, and all of a sudden 4th down gets there quickly.
It didn't bother me a ton in the moment because it's like so much is happening,
right?
And I think that's another part where I would say Hurts might have the advantage because I think he might be more composed and realize we can just call the timeout. We don't have to get up to the. It seemed to me, I could be wrong, that the spike was more about Gardner than the coaching staff. I don't think the coaching staff was saying that.
I know you're guessing or assuming or hypothesizing, but you're saying this was a Gardner decision as much as like Steichen or Sirianni in his head, like get up, clock the ball, whatever. But that's just like, and I don't think that. I don't know that they lose. You know what I mean? Like if they have one more down, I don't know that like they're able to pull it off. But that is a critical. It's a swing. It's not a mistake, but it swings things in one way when those moments happen.
Yeah, I mean, I get like, okay, you could do this differently. Maybe you win the game, and that's obviously a big deal. But like, I don't know. It just seems like a little also too like there are already so many mistakes made at that point. You know what I mean? Like the Miles Sanders fumble is huge. Like you can't. This can't happen there, especially after the turnover previously. It's just like that should have been the game. If the Cowboys get in the end zone there, which they had a chance to at the end, then it's definitely the game. So like, I don't know. I can't make the game about that one non-decision, especially. I'm not saying you are, but like the 3rd and 30 is easily the most egregious thing. There's just no good. There's like I don't have it in front of me, but I want to look up like what is the conversion rate on 3rd and 30 plus because that's insane. It should never happen.
If you buy me a minute, I can get that. There was an article. Just buy me a moment, please. You can.
Because it's just insane. There's no good reason. The pass rush is finally coming home, and it's just really and obviously, like, of course, the Cowboys are going to score a touchdown at that point. Like, there's 0 chance the Eagles are going to get a stop or hold them to a field goal. It's just like that's so demoralizing. I saw the win percentage from the ESPN's probability actually went from the 3rd and 30. The Eagles were at 81.9, and then that conversion it dropped to the Eagles being only 64.7. So like that's a huge play. That I think because I mean if the Eagles force a punt there, I forget were they up by 10 at that point or up by 7? But they're in.
Go ahead.
What was it? Do you remember what it was?
Well, I don't have. So this is from Bob Sturm's.
You tell me with that, and I'll look at it.
Well, this is from Bob Sturm's write-up in The Athletic, which every Cowboys fan, every NFL fan should read. I recognize that Eagles fans probably won't enjoy this. But Bob used Pro Football Reference data, which only goes back to 1994 for this particular assessment. Right. And so this is just his paragraph specifically. Again, go read Bob Sturm. So if you face 3rd and 30 in the conversion, I'm sorry, I lost it right here. If you want to look at the entire NFL, according to this, the 3-decade success rate, so since 1984, on attempts of 3rd and 30 is more roughly 2%, 8 for 374. And then the paragraph he wrote, which encapsulates the moment, like you're saying, says, so if you face 3rd and 30 in the 4th quarter of a game you feel like you must win, if only because the morale lost by dropping a game to a rival with a backup quarterback would send the franchise's loyalists into a self-loathing holiday where no amount of cold weather can make anyone feel any worse, our recommendation is to prepare for the onslaught of doubters because nobody converts 3rd and 30.
Right. That's what I mean. Like it's an insane play, and it can't just be that. Oh, Dak. It wasn't just Dak made a good throw. It wasn't just that.
I think Ty deserves an enormous amount of credit for the catch. This is his first catch as a Cowboy.
It was a good catch, but it's just like
his first game active in like 2 years. First catch as a Cowboy was amazing.
It is. I know Slay isn't necessarily responsible, but it just theoretically it is kind of like how do you let someone get behind you? Like, that's literally the one thing you cannot let them do. On 3rd and 3rd, you can't let anyone get behind you.
Not only
play a billion yards off.
But it's like,
you can't let anyone get behind you.
It's one thing to let, like, all due respect, Alan Lazard get behind you, right? But like, how do you let T.Y. Hilton or Hollywood Brown or Deshaun, you know what I mean? Like Deshaun Jackson, like
exactly.
How do you let like a burner get behind you?
That's why, but again, that's why it's crazy to me. There was like a disguise. Why are you disguising? It's like, just, you know what they're going to do and be in position to prevent it. If he mosses you, if he makes a great catch, well, then that's it. It is what it is at that point, and you'll live with that. But you can't live with him running behind you. It's the one thing you can't allow them to do in 3rd and 30.
I'm fine understanding that the Eagles offensive, Cowboys defensive side of this ball or side of this game is like difficult to properly weigh and contextualize. I do think like I'm at a point with Dan Quinn, and we talked about this a lot at BTB, but it's like, this is the guy, like this is who you're telling me is like, you know, dragging this team.
No one likes their defensive coordinator,
but like that's it. Well, everybody loves DeMeco Ryans.
That's what I mean. Unless you literally have like the best defense in the NFL.
Well, that's why like, you know, yours, maybe, I don't know if you're throwing like, or giving Dan Quinn some grace the way I did Jonathan Gannon. But like the takeaway, you talked about the Eagles takeaway, the takeaway from a Cowboys side of this is this offense can carry them. This offense can win them a game. This offense, if they get, again, they got no help defensively. Like we've talked about many times, no stops on 3rd down. They did get the turnovers, and that's obviously, they scored on every single one of them. That's obviously a big time thing. And, you know, if you're scoring points off turnovers, you're generally going to win, especially if there's 4 of them to score off of. But Dak was sacked 6 times. They didn't really get to Gardner Minshew, didn't even really pressure him all that much. I mean, the run game was not there. The same way I thought that the Eagles took away Micah Parsons in the first matchup, I thought Jonathan Gannon did a great job of neutralizing not just Zeke Elliott, but Tony Pollard. Like Tony Pollard was not a factor in this game. But so this was literally Dak, save us. This was like old school Cowboys, and he did. And like the fact that exists, that can happen, you know, right now gives you at the very least a puncher's chance in the playoffs, which start in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think Linval Joseph had a really good game. Probably maybe his best game since the Eagles signed him. Not that he's been bad, but he's kind of been quiet.
It's like 5 games. Not to diminish it, but I mean,
yeah, I'm just saying. Like, I think, I'm saying the point of why you signed him was showing up in this game, because I think the Eagles were able to stop the Cowboys on the ground, which is significant because obviously Pollard has been good this year, and then Zeke had his best game, as I said, against the Eagles. So they kept Zeke to 16 for 55, 3.4. So that was good. But again, doesn't really matter if you're going to just sit back in zone and allow the other quarterback to complete 24 passes, which Dak deserves credit for. But at the same time, at some point, how do you get to like 18 of 18 and be like, maybe zone isn't working? Like, I don't know how you can.
I mean, I don't know that he's ever aware of like it's 18 for 18, but you're right. Like at a certain point, he's probably like, this dude keeps beating us, but maybe he keeps beating you because he's just better. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't want to recognize that is even remotely possible.
But all I've heard, why are you playing
this
zone?
Is the best secondary in the NFL. These are the best corners in the NFL. This is one of the best defenses in the NFL. They did prove that. They provided a lot of pressure, an enormous amount of pressure, and Dak beat them. Like he didn't beat them because they sucked. He beat them because he's awesome and he was better than them.
I mean, he did beat them because they also just sat back in zone and refused to not play in zone because he clearly wasn't doing as good a man.
Well, Dak picked them apart. I would also say this was one of the finest performances that CeeDee Lamb has put forth. I know you don't watch the Cowboys obviously as consistently as I do, although you did tell our friends on the Birds vs. Boys podcast that you care more about the Cowboys than the Eagles. So maybe I'm not giving you enough credit in that sense. I love Amari Cooper. I will forever be pissed off that the Cowboys traded him away. And while he had insane blowups, I said this on our postgame show, as a Cowboy, 200-yard games, whatever, blah, blah, he did not have the sustained dominance, excellence, whatever you want to call it, that we're seeing.
He's really bad on the road, right?
Well, it wasn't just that, but it would you'd get like a 200-yard, 2-touchdown game from him, and then 60 yards, like in a quiet kind of. And that wasn't all Amari. Like, I don't want to take away context, but like this isn't just about the Eagles game. CeeDee Lamb right now is like alpha. This is the most dominant week to week that a Cowboys receiver has been since the last one who wore number 88. Amari was never like on fire week to week to week to week the way CeeDee is.
I mean, he had what? CeeDee had 11 targets. He had 10 catches for 120 and 2 touchdowns.
He had over 100 yards in the first half alone.
There was a coverage bust in there, which certainly didn't help. And I think Slay was responsible. At least it looked like more so for that one. One thing I wondered about was why it's frustrating to hear how great like Eagles, Darius Slay, a Pro Bowler, James Bradbury, a Pro Bowl alternate. They've been great. But then they didn't.
Last week you hyped up the alternates. You said the Eagles have 15 Pro Bowlers between their starters and their alternates, and now it's frustrating to hear credit given to them for that.
No, I'm saying I didn't let me finish. I'm saying it's frustrating to think about that, and then why can't we at any point maybe match them up? Because they weren't really doing that. They weren't shadowing CD. Like they were just comfortable with having CD on Josiah Scott, the Eagles' backup quarterback who has struggled. It's maybe at some point try out Slay or Bradbury against CD. Maybe just try it for they didn't do that. So again, I don't think Gannon's the only reason they lost, but it's just I don't know, man. It's hard to stomach sometimes. Where it's just it's tough that you didn't even try to do some of these things.
The Cowboys did do that early, and they adjusted in the second half because they were the Eagles, and they talked about this on the broadcast. The Eagles were putting AJ Brown in the slot and therefore forcing Trayvon Diggs to defend the run, and that just I know the Eagles didn't gash the Cowboys, but it's not his strength obviously. And AJ got him bad. What was it, a 46-yard catch early on, and it did
the second play of the game.
It did feel like after that. Trayvon held on for a while and obviously had the horrible bust on the Devontae touchdown. That was just that's when the game, you talk about 3rd and 30, the Devontae touchdown felt like, okay, this is over.
That was a great play design and the aggressiveness to go for it there. You have to give Sirianni and Steichen a lot of credit. They were setting that up all year.
I've even given Jonathan Gannon credit. I mean, I'm giving credit out all over the place here.
That was the same play from earlier in the Eagles-Cowboys game, the one from earlier in the year where Parsons was being optioned and Goddard was coming across and then
oh man, I thought Goddard was awesome, by the way. Him being back is see, this is not a two-way relationship. I can sit here and objectively say how awesome some of these Eagles players are.
I just gave CD credit. What are you talking about? I just read his stat line. See, you're just whatever. Anyway,
I don't know about that.
So I did not read his stat line. Goddard, again, another insane thing. It's he has 3 targets in this game. Because Watkins had 5. It's what are we doing? What? How? How is
I also
happening?
thought Goddard had I thought that one pass was an interception. That was, you know what I mean? And that's why the Deron Bland interception was okay, this one went the other way. You know what I mean? These joint catches that are these in the moment things. Goddard, I mean, him being back is a big deal, obviously, in a lot of senses. I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Also, Kenny Gainwell had more targets than him. It's just
I told you last week that Kenny Gainwell was somebody who bothered me and who made me nervous. I that. Those are the players that make me nervous. They're always kind of weird third option for the Eagles. It's been that way for a long time.
But it's just when Gainwell and Quez are combining for 9 targets and Dallas Goedert has 3. What are we doing? How are we reaching this point? I know it's not always necessarily so simple to get there, but it's just you have to kind of I feel look at yourself after it and be we probably didn't throw to Dallas Goedert enough.
For what it's worth, the Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb led the way, 11 targets. Tony Pollard had 8. Michael Gallup had 7. Gallup had a rough first half in this game, had the sun glare touchdown mishap that led to him not catching that. We're recording on Tuesday. I don't know if you saw this, but Jerry doubled down. I mean, it's the dumbest problem in the world to have. It is truly
also no sympathy. You control that. Jerry, I can't have any sympathy for you if you're building the stadium like this.
This is admittedly off the top of my head. So I have no data to support this. I can't recall a time where an opposing team player was impacted that way. But I can recall many times where the Cowboys, had issues.
Well, especially indoors in an indoor stadium.
Well, and it's reached a point now where some fans are well, you know what? That's on Kellen and Dak. They can't, you know what I mean? They can't attack that. It's what that is the stupidest thing. You can't just ignore half of one end zone on in afternoon games, but whatever. But so I thought Michael Gallup rebounded well. Jake Ferguson, he's good for every 2 weeks, a one catch for 20-yard game. That's what he had. He had the 24-yard big time conversion. Overall, Tyron Smith kind of struggled. Obviously, it was his second game at right tackle. You know what I mean? So, bit of a rough sort of thing to ask him to stop this pass rush.
Hassan Reddick has been really good.
Right. I thought Tyler Smith, though, was awesome. I mean, didn't play a perfect game, but for a rookie going up against this front, I mean, he was incredible in this game. Just a really, really strong performance. Brett Maher, 8 for 8 on all kicks. Those matter in close games like this. If you can go 4 for 4 on field goals, obviously that field goal at the end made it a 6-point game as opposed to a 3-point game. Those are the things. And so I don't know that the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. They probably won't. I mean, because it's very difficult. It's difficult to take one team against the field, but they are absolutely a team that can. They had proven that before Saturday, but Saturday only accented that point to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Eagles, it's the Cowboys, it's the Chiefs, it's the Bengals, it's the 49ers. and the Bills.
The Vikings are in the conversation.
Vikings are not one of those teams. They are not.
Well, we're going to talk about the Vikings win because it was a Giants loss.
They are not one of those teams.
So we have some things to get to. So let's spin forward here. The Cowboys beat the Eagles, embarrassed them, humbled them, all sorts of things, obviously. On Christmas Eve, just gave a lump of coal to BLG.
Keep thinking that.
But, tough scenes to have your lock of the week. For the first time ever, we had opposing locks on the look ahead. Brandon took the Eagles.
And I'm still ahead.
The Cowboys. But you lost this one. You lost because you locked
still ahead.
Eagles,
just like
and
I
won
still ahead in the
standings.
Cowboys. And on their way to the 1 seed.
So importantly, as we get to the Giants, because we kind of went Eagles, Cowboys, sort of Giants in third place in the division. The Giants lost to the Vikings. The Giants lost and the Cowboys win. Obviously, if you want to take a break, let's go ahead and take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. Welcome back. While we were gone, Brandon came back with a Dallas Cowboys jersey on. Can you tell everybody what player it is, Brandon?
It's Russell Wilson.
Isn't it really funny to think about, like, he had a list of teams and like all the demands this dude was making, like what a just, oh my gosh, like all time just sort of thing.
I like the Nickelodeon broadcast though, by the way. I know that's not like super related to what we're talking about, but I did tune in to the end of that.
The Broncos Rams game is what Brandon's talking about on Christmas.
It's really fun. I like it. It makes football like a little bit less serious, which I think it needs to be sometimes, because admittedly I get
when a game reaches that point of comedy, like what that game was.
Agree.
Yeah, it's helpful for something like that.
It's just fun. It's like, oh, there's slime on the field and then there's slime in the crowd. It's silly. It's like, it's good. I think it's a good way for kids to kind of, have some skin in the game.
So because the Giants lost to the Vikings earlier in the day, we had obviously talked about that a lot on both mixtapes that we did last week. And the Cowboys won. Now, whenever, assuming the Eagles do clinch the NFC East, which will in all likelihood happen, that locks Philly in as the 1 seed, assuming they win and the Vikings don't come for them, whatever. Philly's the 1 seed, or at the very least, the NFC East champion. Dallas is the 5 seed. Because of that Giants loss and the Cowboys win, Dallas can no longer be worse than anything other than the 5 seed. But this is about the Giants, who did lose to the Minnesota Vikings thanks to a 61-yard Greg Joseph field goal. I know this isn't the NFC North mixtape, but man, Kirk Cousins was awesome in this game, honestly. I mean, really just incredible fourth quarter specifically. Justin Jefferson went off on the Vikings. On the Giants, he and TJ Hawkinson. This was weirdly, I talked about this on Monday Football Monday. I thought this was a great game for both teams. Like, this was one of the best games the Giants have played all season. And I know they lost, but this was maybe the most inspired they have been all season, or the most inspired they've looked.
I mean, Saquon's been better recently, which is key, because that was a big issue when they were struggling. He had 14 for 84, along with 27, 1 touchdown, 6.0 average in this game. He's looked better. That's good. He also helped as a pass catcher at 8 for 49. I thought Daniel Jones, for the most part, played well. He had that pick, but I think it was also just kind of a good play by Patrick Peterson. I saw Ed Valentine from Big Blue View agreed with me on that one. So, I don't think the Giants need to hang their heads in shame. Like, they played a close game on the road against a team that's won a lot this year, but isn't as good as their record says they are. It's kind of like the Giants. And I don't know, like Richie James having some drops in high leverage situations was a problem. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't think there's a big takeaway here, other than the Giants are kind of trending more positively than we thought they were. Because we thought they were going to collapse out of the playoffs, and now they're just 1 win away from making it.
It shows the value of their win against the Commanders now 2 weeks ago, right? Because they can lose this game. It's like, I mean, and I recognize other things happen too, but you know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're still good. You know what I mean? Like, that one win is such a difference. Again, I mean, I felt this way about the Eagles and Cowboys. I felt like it was a great game from the Giants. They just lost to a better team on that day. I think the Vikings were the better team and they outplayed them.
I mean, you could argue the Giants outplayed them in the sense of they outgained the Vikings by almost 100 yards. That's pretty crazy. Now, they weren't as good in third down. They're 3 of 11. That hurt. They were -2 in turnover differential. Mm-hmm. That hurt. They had
sometimes I don't think differential tells the whole story. Like we talk about Dallas, Philly was +3 or whatever, but there were 4 Philly turnovers. You know what I mean? That's an important part of the story. To this point, there were 2 Giants turnovers and no Vikings turnovers. So it's not like they ever had short fields or anything to kind of work with themselves.
And they had 5 more penalties than the Vikings did, for almost a difference of 50 yards. So, they actually possessed the ball about the same amount of time, but between all those just kind of miscues in the important high leverage situations, that was the difference in a 3-point game. And a field goal that is certainly more makeable in a dome from when it was, but still, you lost on. It's funny, RJ. The Giants lost on a 61-yard field goal, just like they did in 2017 when Jake Elliott hit that, and it was by the same score. It was also 27-24. So
I think that's the third 60-plus yard field goal that they've lost on since like the 2017 season. So we're missing one, but like they've lost on obviously multiple, but like I think at least 3 60-plus yard field goals, which is, and to your point, or to the like outdoors point, that one was outdoors, right? That was in Philly, not New York.
It was in September, right. But so it wasn't like cold, but yes.
Still, I mean, not a dome or not an indoor palace like what the Vikings have going on. I'm very interested in these Giants. They should, in all likelihood, beat the Colts this week, and if they do, they clinch a playoff berth. Right? Like we don't think the Giants are going to lose.
Colts who are playing on a short week with Nick, my boy Nick Foles, not looking too good.
Dude, that was rough. I mean, like all kinds of rough. I read an article, by the way. I think it was Stephen Holder at ESPN who wrote about, and it was like, maybe we should have seen this coming for Matt Ryan and the Colts. It's like, I wonder who did. I want, and it was like, and I'm not like, it was a great article, like Stephen Holder's great, but like it was like citing all these like advanced metrics from Ryan last season. It's like, interesting how like all of a sudden this matters. But like when it's just an example, like not to like take the cheese on stuff, because when the Colts traded for Matt Ryan, it's like, oh, the Colts are trading for league MVP Matt Ryan. Now that Matt Ryan sucks, it's like all the actual recent things are a factor. But the Giants are favored in this game by 5.5. I don't know the last time they were at least 5-point favorites. It has to have been a very, very long time.
Not sure. I mean, they weren't even favored when they were playing the Lions earlier this year, and the Lions had like a losing record, and the Giants were 7-3 or whatever at the time, 7-2. Yeah, but I like the Giants to clinch this week because the Colts are not in good shape, and they're coming off a short week, and the Giants have looked a little bit better. And it's also not the only outcome that the Giants need to make the playoffs. I forget what else can happen. Let me look that up real quick. But they can also get some losses elsewhere and still make it.
Big Blue View just tweeted it out. So there are 7 ways. I'm not going to read stats that's like, whoa, I'm only going to read the ones with 2 things, whatever. So they win. There are 3 scenarios where they tie. And so I think we both think like, I know they've tied before, but like, we're not going to go through those.
Well, no team has ever tied twice in the same season.
That's true. So if the Seahawks and Commanders both lose, then they're in, independent of what they do. If the Seahawks, Lions, and Packers all lose, the Packers can also tie in that situation. Or if the Commanders, Lions, and Packers all lose, I think they'll win. But I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a Commanders loss, which we'll get to in a moment.
I mean,
or even a Seahawks loss to the Mike White Jets.
So just the overall point being, decent chance they clinched. I mean, in theory they could lose and still clinch. So there's pretty good chance they clinch.
First playoff appearance it will be, because it's going to happen, since 2016 for the New York Giants.
And they will win the Super Bowl inexplicably because that's what happens.
That would be really funny. Like if we spent this whole season like gassing up the NFC East, but like the Giants don't really matter.
No team can more inexplicably win a Super Bowl than the Giants. That's just true. It's 100% true.
I agree. It would both be very Giants-like and very Joe Flacco-like for Daniel Jones, right? Like in like a contract year. And I know Flacco had the incredible postseason in 2012, but like he wasn't like awesome. Amazing. Yeah. And he wasn't amazing in the regular season. He was normally like normal good. I think he had an 11-0 touchdown interception ratio that year, tied Joe Montana.
Crazy. Just
it was wild. The Jacoby Jones touchdown is one of my all-time favorites in the Super Bowl. Like it was just, and then he had the kickoff return. Like, oh, good times. All right, so let's get to the Commanders, and then we'll spin forward on this week because there is a lot at stake. We once upon a time thought this was kind of a maybe cute game for the Commanders to maybe win. That blew up in our faces. The defensive player of the year, Nick Bosa, had his way with the Commanders. 37-20, the final score. I think the biggest question: what the hell are you doing, Ron Rivera, with this Carson Wentz stuff? Like, why are you like no? But like, why are you toying around with this? Like, what? Like, you're going to be a playoff team probably. Like, what are you messing around like this for with weeks to go before the playoffs start?
I mean, there's no good option. That's the reality. There's no good one path. I think the thinking is that Wentz has a higher ceiling in theory, so maybe he can do something incredible, but obviously I'm not going to say that's likely or count on that. Whereas I think they've realized, you're reaching a certain ceiling with Heineke here. But I mean, either way, it just doesn't matter. It's like Carolina earlier this year when they're benching Sam Darnold and putting Baker in. Like it didn't matter. Or PJ Walker.
They're so
it doesn't
close
matter.
To the
they're
playoffs.
all bad.
I agree with that, but like, why are you playing with fire like this? Like the like you wearing the Vibes hat? Or is that the Vox hat? It's company man right there. Like, why would you mess with the vibes of this? You know what I mean? Like, there was the scene with Heineke getting all pissed off when he was taken out of this game. Like, that is bad vibes. Like, you already you live in bad vibes. Like, you're in bad vibedom all the time when it comes to being the Commanders. Why incite this? It's kind of, it feels similar on the subject of Wentz to the quote Rivera had earlier in the season when what was it that he said? I already forgot about, like, oh, he sucks, or like whatever, needs to play better. Like, why are you creating? This was not an issue. If you want to limp into the playoffs with Heineke, that's your best bet, I think. But he created a problem when there wasn't one.
Big stakes for them this week as if they lose, their playoff odds, which are currently at 29% per 538.com, drop down to 7%. They host the Browns, who just lost to the Saints. So, they should be able to win. And by the way, if they win the game, it boosted up to about like 48%. So,
the Seahawks have the Jets and they're coming for them. And the Lions have the Bears. They're obviously a factor. The Packers, who do the Packers have this week?
Minnesota.
That's right. So that's probably less likely, but still, like,
game's in Green Bay, though.
You're right. I mean, it's not impossible for Washington to fall out and ruin the title of this episode is like all 4 teams can make the playoffs.
I don't think it's happening. I think Washington's gonna fall out. Green Bay is scaring me, right? Because and obviously scaring you too. I know your history with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
that
Aaron Rodgers is to me what Dak Prescott is to you. So I understand why you hate Dak so much.
I mean, not even close. I mean, Dak Prescott is what one playoff game is it?
But he owns the Eagles. That's okay. The whole point.
So anyway, I don't want Rodgers in the playoffs. I don't care that I think this Packers team isn't that good.
What scares me about what you're like talking about? So like Green Bay is 7th seed or not, right? Like obviously, like that's the only way that they're getting in.
Can they get the 6 in theory?
That's the Giants, and so no way because the Giants also have the tiebreaker over them.
Okay, well it wouldn't matter because they have a tie.
That's true, but anyway. So it's a 7th seed. So like it would be Green Bay, Minnesota. Like it would be the most like both the most Packers and the most Vikings thing of all time for Green Bay to go to Minnesota, right? And win in the playoffs. And like so they could actually disrupt this like reckoning we're all excited and afraid of, this Cowboys Eagles playoff game. But like it would be Green Bay going, like that would terrify me if I were you. Like I would want it would terrify me in the like way it's supposed to terrify you. Like I understand being confident, like the Eagles are a very good team, whatever, but like it's the same way like Cowboys fans don't want to play the Bucks in the wild card.
Yeah, you can't just be like, we got it, no questions asked. You can't say that, even if there's like that 1% chance that Brady or Rodgers could go off. It that exists rent free, as you would say, in your head. Like it's in there. You cannot not have it in your head.
And the Commanders are going to make sure it happens. I no longer feel confident in them to beat the Browns. I don't know. The Browns look pretty bad. It's tough. So, well, let's get to this coming week and all the kind of scenarios at stake. But before we do, I did want to bring this up. I saw this tweet right now from Front Office Sports. On Sunday, so against the Browns, the Commanders are set to unveil their new mascot. The 2 finalists are a hog and a dog. I don't know if you knew that's what the tweet says. A hog and a dog. But I want to read a website that is just about a bunch of different kinds of dogs called Dogs David. Well, Dogs David doesn't make sense. We're going to pass on that. But so if they choose the hog, the Commanders, that is, obviously for anyone, we have a lot of younger listeners. The Hogs is a thing from the Commanders franchise back in the 80s, 90s, like the heyday of the organization, obviously from a football standpoint. The offensive line, whatever, it's part of the fans. Like Google it if you want. But the original Hogs, the offensive linemen, I don't know if did you see this on Monday? No. They are like, I don't know if they're filing a lawsuit. Oh, yeah, I did see that. Yeah. But like they're getting into like a legal battle over that name because they don't want it affiliated with the organization. Good for them. I agree, but like it's just peak Dan Snyder. Like it is, and obviously, again, if you don't know the origin story, that's why Hogs Haven is called Hogs Haven. But man, just tough times. But so if they pick the hog, it's going to be a really weird and awkward weekend. All right. Anyway, okay, so week 17. I've been all over the place here. I think for the purposes of this, we should go in chronological order because the Cowboys result can swing things. Cowboys visit the Titans on Thursday Night Football. If they lose, Eagles are NFC East champions, but not the 1 seed yet in the NFC. Right. Also, if they tie, the Eagles would also clinch the NFC East somehow. Okay, so loss or tie from the Cowboys on Thursday clinches the division for Philly, but Philly still has to play for the 1 seed. They would have to win or tie to clinch the 1 seed. that game is at noon, right, against the Saints.
Yeah.
And so is the Packers Vikings game. So it's not like last week where you would know before kickoff, whatever.
Correct.
Okay. So a Cowboys win accomplishes nothing because, like I said, if and when Philly clinches, Dallas is already locked into the 5 seed. All a Cowboys win accomplishes in the literal sense is it keeps them alive, however faintly, for the division and the 1 seed if all of the things go their way. For any Cowboys fan who does not know, I do think everybody understands for Dallas to win the division, they'd have to win out and Philly would have to lose out. In addition to that, for the 1 seed or a 2 seed, I guess, Dallas would have to, or a 3 seed, I guess, or no, 2 or 3, whatever. They would have to get a Vikings and Niners loss for the 1 seed. So, depending on how those things go, obviously, most of those things are unlikely. And in case you don't know, Brandon, I think you do. You're pretty good at this. The Titans have nothing to play for.
Yeah, I was just going to get into that. Yeah,
absolutely nothing. So they lost to the Texans last week, and because of the Jaguars' recent wins, the Titans can only accomplish something next week, week 18, against the Jaguars in a game that will likely be Sunday Night Football. So I think if we were both Titans fans, we would both be saying, don't do anything, like rest, take advantage. You have the mini bye. Don't play Derrick Henry, play him lightly, whatever the case may be, because this season for you comes down to week 18. I thought it was interesting. Mike Vrabel even kind of said, are you taking a picture of me?
Yeah, I'm doing a Be Real. Are you on Be Real, RJ?
I'm not. I'm barely on TikTok, so I don't know what Be Real is. I don't quite understand it. Hey, you got the new phone, right? Or new phone case?
Yeah, I've had that for a bit now.
Okay, good. Anyway, it does seem like Mike Vrabel didn't say, but like kind of said that the Titans might lay down a little bit. And how could you not, right? Obviously, if you're them. But with the week 18, I mean, there's pros and cons. Don't get me wrong.
It's very un-Titans, un-Vrabel like to say that, though, in the sense of
I thought it was so strange that
we're the Titans.
But I thought it was so weird that he kind of admitted it. Like he admitted it without like actually admitting it.
Although you could say it's very like Belichickian to be like, oh, he's thinking at the next level. He's going to rest his players for a game. It doesn't matter.
But so in all likelihood, the Titans will lay down. The Cowboys will win. Dallas is currently, I think, I don't know if it moved. They opened as 9.5 point favorites. They are now 10 point favorites. So in all likelihood, Dallas wins, keeps the conversation going for a few more days. Philly gets New Orleans. As we all know, the Eagles own the Saints' first-round draft pick. So a win wins the division, clinches the 1 seed, and worsens the draft pick that, correct me if I'm wrong, currently sits at 10 overall.
Yes.
Okay.
So the Eagles need to clinch the number 1 seed. The Eagles need to win, or if the Eagles tie and the Vikings lose or tie, that would also be acceptable. And then there's the scenario where the Eagles lose, but the Cowboys lose, the Vikings lose, and the 49ers lose or tie, and then the Eagles would clinch even though they lost, it's not going to happen. But we'll mention it.
So the Cowboys were fortunate to escape from their win on Saturday relatively injury-free. That was not the case for Philly.
No, that's honestly a bigger concern than like in terms of like the impact of like future moving forward. That was the bigger impact. Losing Lane Johnson, losing Avonte Maddox.
And now being, however bad we think the Saints are, being in a position where you have to risk more. And I hate that argument because the implication there is that like Lane or Avonte or somebody wouldn't have played against the Saints even if the Eagles had won last week. Like it's, you can't, like we've said this, you can't rest your entire starting lineup. You know what I mean? Like even if you've clinched everything. So
you have 50. You have what, 47 players up for game day? Yeah,
you can do 48.
Or 40, or if you do the extra offensive lineman, 48. Right. But yeah, it's not like preseason. There's literally like 90 players you can use.
Right. So again, like I think that's cherry picking like in the moment because like the Eagles lost. Now it's like, oh, well, now look what we did. We blew it, blah, blah, blah. So whatever. But so Lane Johnson, correct me if I'm wrong, definitely missing the rest of the regular season. Avonte and maybe more, obviously. Avonte probably done in general, right?
Unfortunately. I don't know.
But the word is,
I would say definitely out for the regular season. Yeah, but I don't know if he's out for the season.
And the big question is Jalen Hurts, whether or not he's going to play. And he wants to play. He's a tough guy. We get it, Nick. Okay, like we understand. But like, what is your gut instinct there?
I just don't think there's a good reason to play him because it's not like, again, you said it yourself. Like Minshew didn't look bad. Like you can win. Can you win with Minshew? Yeah, you absolutely can.
You can definitely beat the Saints with Minshew.
So I think you can't. I think you have to protect Hurts from himself. And I don't know if you saw the report about his injury. It's not an AC joint, which is the more common injury for a shoulder. It's a SC. Yeah, for him. And basically, there's been different reports. It's a less common injury, so it seems like there isn't like as good of a read on what it might take for him to fully recover and everything. If I'm the Eagles, I just play it safe. I don't play. If Jalen Hurts has to play, then you can play. If he wants to play, you can play him next week if you don't win this game. But you should at least get 2 weeks off, which is the original reported timeline from last Monday of the time he probably needed off is 2 weeks. So then give him the 2 weeks. I feel like it's a no-brainer. You give him the 2 weeks. You can rely on Minshew and the rest of your team to get by in this game. I just feel like the Saints are not good. The Saints are not a good team. They've won 2 games on the road this year. One of them was this past week against the Browns, where they got outgained. Their quarterback had like a 44, Andy Dalton, your boy, like a 44.6 passer rating. Like they didn't even play well, and they won the game.
It was
against
really
the Browns.
gross.
And the other win was in week 1 when they came back against the chokiest chokers of all time, the Falcons. So
although they should have won a few weeks ago in Tampa. They didn't, but they played well enough to win that. But some
of
the
Bucs don't look good either. It's
right,
just like they're not. The Saints just aren't. You should. The point is, it's not like, okay, we played Minshew when we should have played Hurts. If you lost, no, there's a bigger failure there. You need to, if you go out and get Gardner Minshew and you have this confidence in him as an organization to be your backup quarterback, you need him to be able to win one of these last 3 games. I feel like.
So I'm a big believer in, I say this a lot, I may have said it on a podcast with you at some point, in making decisions when you're not emotionally compromised. So like you, Brandon, you random BGN radio listener, whoever you are, what did you say last week? You should have told yourself, okay, if the Eagles lose to the Cowboys, what? You know what I mean? Like if you're somebody who said, if the Eagles lose to the Cowboys, I want Hurts in against the Saints. And if that's what you said, then hey, you know what I mean? Like you were not emotionally compromised when you made the decision. But if you said, look, I understand that if we lose to the Cowboys, tempers are going to be hot. We're going to be emotional. It's going to be a rough week around here, but it's still not worth it. If you're somebody who said that, trust yourself. And I do trust that that's what Sirianni and everybody else have done. Yeah. They have said, you cannot overreact to this loss because, like we said, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't mean anything. I understand it frazzled people a little bit, but it's not worth it. It's not worth it when you've come this far.
It might be a different story if Minshew threw 5 picks and no touchdowns, and the Eagles got they scored 1 touchdown. That wasn't the case. They scored, they outgained the Cowboys. They had pretty good offensive showing, aside from the turnovers, which are an issue. But also, I'm pretty confident that you're not going to have to worry about turning the ball over 4 times in the next game. So yeah, Eagles should be able to play Minshew, and I think he will. And I don't know if they cover. I think it could be tough because the Saints are still playing for their season. But I do think the Eagles win.
So the line at the time of recording is 7 points. Eagles favored by 7.
That went up because it was 6.5 earlier today.
I would take Philly to cover still. As much as I would love the anarchy and chaos involved with the Saints, I mean, covering isn't a big deal, but I thought the Eagles looked really good. I do think the one thing that would maybe cause me to think about all this, at least just really quickly again, is the Lane Johnson injury, right? That is generally Dave Damashek loves to talk about a Jenga piece on an NFL team. Who is the non-quarterback that you take away and the team falls apart? Is Lane Johnson not? Maybe now it's AJ Brown, but I mean with Devontae Smith, the loss I don't know would be seismic, but the loss of Lane Johnson is a big deal.
It is. I mean, Jack Driscoll I think has done okay, and we don't know for sure if it's going to be him at right tackle, because in theory, if the Eagles want to, they can put Jordan Mailata over at right tackle, and they can put Andre Dillard in at left tackle. So we don't know 100% what they're going to do. Earlier in the season, they were using Driscoll, but also Dillard was on IR at the time. So we don't know. It's going to be a drop-off, and that's why I say I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. I think the Saints have a real chance to cover, but I think the Eagles just ultimately have too much talent. The Saints are so banged up, and they just haven't been good. And Dalton's probably going to turn the ball over. I don't. And you're at home. I just think they're going to win.
For the purposes of remaining not emotionally compromised, if the Cowboys won and the Eagles lost, which would keep the conversation going one more week, like we said, what would Minshew have to do, or if there's anything for you to say, I trust Minshew in week 18? Because that would, or is there nothing he could do? You would be it has to be Hurts because you have to clinch this week.
I think it has to be Hurts in part because I just don't think there's any chance he wouldn't play. I don't think you are I think it's already taking so much for them to be Dylan, you cannot play. I know you think you can play, but you should not play, and you can't really play. These past 2 weeks, the week 16, week 17. But if you get to week 18, Jalen's I don't care. I don't. You literally have to put handcuffs on me, and you would have to
I'm with you. I don't think there's anything. Even if Minshew threw for 500 yards in a losing effort, I think it would be impossible to not do that. Anyway, okay. Mm-hmm. So last thing related to the Cowboys and the Eagles before we pick the other games. If the Eagles win and whatever happens to Dallas is the 5 seed, like we said. If the Bucs win, this week against the Panthers, they clinch the NFC South. And they are the 4 seed if that happens. They cannot be the 3 or higher. So that would mean we know going into week 18 that the wild card round is Cowboys Bucks. If those things, if any combination of those things happens, Cowboys loss, Eagles win, and a Bucks win, then we know that. If we don't get the
Bucks, who again? You said
the Panthers. The Panthers would have to win out.
So game's in Carolina, or
right.
no? Wait,
no, it's in Tampa.
Sorry, yeah,
they beat them in Carolina earlier this season. But if the Panthers win, the South is still up for grabs. So they would retake control. The Panthers, they would need to win out to win the division. But even if Philly and Dallas lock this week, we would go into week 18 saying, well, it's going to be Tampa or Carolina, as opposed to if the Bucks win, we know the matchup specifically beyond just the people or the teams locking. But okay, so the Giants clinch with they clinch a playoff berth with a win. We mentioned it. They are 5.5-point favorites against the Colts. We both think they win and cover.
Yep.
Okay, and you didn't pick the Cowboys. I don't know if you
Cowboys.
And do they cover? I mean, it's 10 points. It's a lot of points. I mean,
yeah. I mean, their offense is not very pretty. The Titans, yeah, especially if they might rest like Derrick Henry.
I don't know who has the most injuries in the NFL, like starters, but they might be like they have a case. Like they are all sorts of beat up right now. It's Malik Willis has not shown a lot to be impressed by, so just really tough times.
Yeah, I don't think Tannehill is great, but like there is a big drop off between him and
dude. They've lost 5. They could lose 6 games in a row and then win an effective playoff game and get in. That's pretty crazy to me. But anyway,
I like the Cardinals last year.
That's true. The Commanders are. Do you know the line for their game against the Browns?
I'm gonna guess the line. An original segment only done here on the NFC East Mixtape and no other podcasts. And
nobody who roots against the Philly team, maybe like in basketball, or whatever, do this.
I'm gonna say it's in. Wait, where is it again? Sorry,
it is in Landover. Remember the mascot unveiling?
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna say the Commanders are 1-point favorites.
You are half correct. Oh, I guess you know what the half is, because if you were correct on the line,
1.5-point favorites.
They are 2.5-point favorites against the Browns. The Browns are a horrible franchise, but from just a football standpoint, they've been a really bad football team since Deshaun. I mean, they look worse, right, with Deshaun than they did with Jacoby Brissett. For them, like, I guess, like as far as like the just general like kind of spoonful test, you know.
Who would have thought that could potentially bring the vibes down?
So it's hard to believe in them. I mean, they on paper have the better quarterback, I guess, especially if Ron Rivera's like messing around with this.
I think Watson's mobility is, still something that matters. And I think so the Browns need to run to win, right? I think that's kind of their biggest thing. And the Commanders' biggest strength is stopping the run. So I don't know. I think the Commanders might have a chance.
Who are you picking?
I'll take the Commanders. I mean,
to cover too?
I mean, yeah, sure. Why not?
I don't want to pick the Browns, to be very clear. I'll pick the Commanders, but I really don't feel safe about it. Like I don't,
because then, okay, let's say the Commanders win, then that puts them in a position where, I mean, certainly they're going to be motivated in Week 18 against a Cowboys team that will probably have nothing to play for. I'm guessing. Well, I don't know, because the Cowboys in the past have had, not necessarily under McCarthy, I can't remember, but I remember under Garrett, they played in that Week 17 game against the Giants where they had nothing to play for, and they
went down to the wire and they won.
Which I thought was like, okay, you won, but like
it was
risky.
It was really risky, but it was so cool, like the way they won. Like the last second game-winning touchdown to Cole Beasley was incredible. Like it's the ultimate, like, oh, we really wanted this exact result, type of thing. The Cowboys did play somewhat last year in Week 18 in Philly. Obviously, we talked about that at the time. So they didn't. They
at least like the first half, right?
Yeah, and Micah didn't play at all. He didn't even make the trip.
Sure,
you know what I mean. But like, and if I remember, I think he was on the COVID list, or he was sick or something. So that was part
of it. A lot
of
teams, last year were putting guys on the COVID list, so then they could automatically not be ruled out in the playoffs.
Right. But so, I mean, that's the only example under McCarthy. They did in 2014, the Cowboys, when they were locked in as a division winner, though. They did play in Washington, despite having nothing to gain. So yeah, I mean, the last time they like kind of truly laid down was as the 1 seed in 2016 in Philly.
And is there a scenario? So that's the thing too. We haven't seen a scenario, I think, where the team needed it. The team they were playing, because like when we talked about that Giants game just now that the Cowboys won, the Giants didn't need that game.
Well, and none of them, because the Washington and 14 didn't need it.
That's different here. That's a different right. It's like, do you want to let your division rival get? And I would say, yes, I would say you do want to lose because you don't want Aaron Rodgers to make the playoffs.
And that's what I was gonna say. To the point, like a Cowboys laydown next week might let Aaron Rodgers in. I hadn't considered that probability, but that all changes.
Oh wait, I had it backwards. Sorry, I thought like.
Yeah, if the Cowboys lay down, I'm sorry, if they
play
to win,
right. If
they play to win, they can let Aaron Rodgers
give the Commanders that win.
There we go.
So Rodgers doesn't get in. It's all the more reason to rest. Yeah.
It obviously does depend on the results of this week, and it's not just Dallas. It's not just Washington. It's Seattle. It's Detroit. It's Green Bay. Am I leaving anybody else off here as far as like the contenders for that third spot? Yeah, it's Washington, Seattle,
Lions.
Detroit, Green Bay. So those 4 teams. So Seattle has the Jets. The Lions have the who are they play? The Bears, and the Packers have the Vikings. So if hypothetically the Packers were the only team to win this week, then if you're the Cowboys, I think you're like, do we really want this? Like, do we really want to let Aaron? But I mean, if you're super into 4D chess, it's like, okay, let's let Aaron in. And he can win in the wild card round and then go play Philly. You know what I mean?
I get it what you're saying, but I don't know.
I'm having fun.
If they do that, if it reaches the point where they take out the Eagles, then you're not feeling good about having to play that team at that point.
Just to like play the example out, like what it would, and this is just all for fun. If Green Bay got in as the 7, Philly was the 1 seed, and say both Green Bay and Dallas won in the wild card round, then Green Bay would go to Philly, and if Green Bay and Dallas both won, then like your ultimate, boogeyman for the Cowboys, Aaron Rodgers, would come to your house for the NFC Championship game. Like I would vomit all week long. Like it would not be fun.
And that would assume that the Cowboys probably beat the
Niners or the Vikings. Yeah,
on the road.
Like I'm saying, it's all hypothetical. Even if the Cowboys went and beat
not the Vikings, because you said the Cowboys or sorry.
Oh no, the Packers. Right.
The Packers,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I would hate that so much. Like I would not enjoy that whatsoever. And the if they ran the table, it would be nothing but like they're running the table. Aaron Rodgers, relax, blah blah blah. But couldn't
an uncomfortable possibility?
Couldn't you see like a week from now, as we head into week 18, like Aaron Rodgers doing a session like in front of his locker is like, yeah, I called Mike this week and said, hey, if you guys want to play to win, I'd really appreciate that. Ha ha ha. Like, Mike's a good guy. I love him. We miss him around. You know what I mean? Like, couldn't you just see like the smug, like Aaron Rodgers session talking about that next week?
I don't know, but it does make me nervous. I don't love that possibility. I don't love that lingering out there.
The Cowboys matchup is its own like unique thing. So who is the most terrifying potential divisional matchup for you? Is it Green Bay or Detroit? Because I think you're more I think you're more afraid of either of those than you would be Washington or New York or Seattle.
Yeah, I'm not worried about. I know the Eagles lost to the Commanders, but like I'll take my chances against them not turning the ball over 4 times in this game. And also maybe it's Wentz and you're going to get some turnovers.
Oh my God. If Wentz won a playoff game in Philadelphia,
okay,
it would never happen, but that would be just incredible content. I mean, okay.
Wouldn't hold your breath on that one.
This was a fun way to kind of wind down. After I had a great time this episode. I don't know about you. Anything else you want to say? Anything else we're missing?
No, it's just been a weird aftermath, because it was like a pivot from, that game to my mom's birthday on Christmas. Shout out to my mom.
Happy birthday.
I had a good weekend spending time, but it's just tough because it's like I'm trying to get into like some of like our post game stuff, and today was like the first day I really could, because Christmas Day was spending time with family, and then yesterday still in the aftermath. So
it's weird. It was a Saturday, but then there was Sunday.
I don't want. I can't. We do things. We can't disrupt both holidays. It's just not fun to me. I don't like it.
And if you are a big NBA fan, then you're like you know what I mean? You're trying to watch that. Like,
I was working, trying to do some things, but I wanted to have the Sixers game on because they're on and it's Christmas. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I do think, or I know, like we're a year away. All right, 2024 will start the Christmas on Monday trend. You know what I'm saying? We'll have a good 4 or 5 years before this is a problem ever again. You know what I'm saying? So
hopefully, I that's the thing. I watched Eagles Raiders on Christmas in 2017.
That's what I'm saying. But once Christmas falls on a Tuesday, you know what I mean? For that little run, we'll be
say
safe.
this as if the NFL isn't going to, roll out like
they're
games
coming
on
for
every
Black
day
Friday
of the week.
next year. So yeah, you're right. It could be. Did you
It'll
know
be
that?
a game on every day of the week at some point. It'll be.
It does get exhausting, and I know you don't play fantasy, but so this week is for many people the like fantasy championship round, and like it is so exhausting when you're in a stressful environment like that, and you're playing against somebody who's like on Monday Night Football. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, I have to like hold this stress the whole week through. You know what I mean? It's just
a big stretch too from Thursday to Monday. Like that's a big gap, and it's just like that's all 1 week. It's just kind of and then there's the Saturday games now because it's late in the year. I don't know. It's just it's a bit much.
All right. As we leave, Brandon, I will kindly ask you to tell us your 3 favorite flavors of bubblegum.
Bubblegum?
Yeah, like like flavors. Like, do you want like a minty gum? Do you want?
Can I
like,
say bubblegum as a flavor?
Yeah, I think
that's like a flavor.
That counts. But like some people are like watermelon, or like some people like a ginger, sort of like
no, I'm not a big watermelon person. I don't, and I can't do the big. That's insane. That's a psycho move to me. The cinnamon gums.
I agree, and some of the like minty ones are they're not spicy, but like you ever like chew one of those gums and then take a swig of water, like it's like a fire in your mouth.
So. I think I like a spearmint in general. Like the green as opposed to like what's the blue mint? I don't know. Whatever that is.
Let me change the question. What's your preferred physical setup of gum? Do you want the stick? Do you want a cube?
Yeah, that's a better question, I think. Yeah. I think because that's tough because there are a lot of good. I don't think because you got like the big league chew too. You got
that's like the torn kind of.
That's not the answer. Like, although the sour apple flavor of that, is really good. The flavor. I guess I got to go. I feel like the ones you unwrap sometimes can get like a little.
The paper will stick to them sometimes, like in the wrong weather.
Or like it could be like a hot day and the gum starts like sweating. Like it's just I don't know. It's not the ideal. I think so. I think it might have to be like. Do I have one of these on my desk? I don't. But like the ones that come in like the little. Oh, actually, no. You know what I like is I do like a Mentos gum. I do a Mentos gum right now.
Oh, that's a good choice because they have the little like hard coating, so like you could even drop it, you know what I mean, or whatever, and like you're fine. Wow, what a good call. Mine, I don't know what brand it is, but it comes in like a little canister almost, like it kind of looks like a soda can.
I was going for that.
Yeah, and they're little cubes, like sugar cubes, or like what I've never fed a horse a sugar cube, but like what I imagine.
You're missing out.
Have you fed a horse a sugar cube before?
I feel like at one point in my life, like a field trip or something, probably.
Well, if we're doing that, then I probably did at one point in my life.
My grandparents
clear, conscious memories.
Live across from a horse farm, so probably did it at one point.
The Premier League is back, and as we wrap, Chelsea's up 2-0. So
I don't care.
That's your team. What are you talking about? Wow.
I mean, I don't have the bandwidth to care about that right now. Like, I'll care maybe in May
after the Packers.
The season's too long. Eagles. The Premier season. Come on, let's admit it. It's too long. It's drawn out. There's all these international breaks. There's the champions. It's just like it's hard for me to follow throughout the year. I start to get more invested when it matters, but it's like tough to do every game, especially for us.
It's tough to do every competition, right? To be invested in like, well, this is our current standing in like this or that or whatever. But like if you can pick one, I think it's a little bit easier. But I get your point.
It's just I can't care about it this time of the year.
Shout out to Gum, and
wow, what a bold shout out.
Yeah, say one word.
Wrap this up.
Say one word.
Bye.